It's a movie review, 2019 release of Richard Jewell. This is directed by Clint Eastwood. The writing credits, Billy Ray is responsible for the screenplay, based on an article and two books. This is a real story, dramatised for the screen, of course, and the cast. In the lead role as Richard Jewell is Paul Walter Hauser. His mother, Bobby, is played by Kathy Bates. His lawyer is played by Sam Rockwell. The character name is Watson Bryant. The doctor, Clear, played by Charles Green, and the journalist who basically got the story moving about Jewell, Kathy Scruggs, is played by Olivia Wilde, and finally the chief investigating officer is played by Jan Hamm. His name's Tom Shaw, and there are others, of course. This movie did gather a few awards. They were both for Kathy Bates. She was nominated for an Academy Award as a supporting actress, and also at the Golden Globes, again a nominee. So, to the review of Richard Jewell, released in 2019. This is the latest Clint Eastwood movie, and I watched it last night. I have to say I was quite impressed with it. It held my attention, had a good storyline, the acting was excellent, and I can thoroughly recommend it. It's not his best, but it's certainly a few notches up from the other movie he was involved in last year, which was The Mule, one that he directed and starred in, which I did feel was a bit humdrum really and lacked a bit of spark. So Richard Jewell, it's based on the true story of what took place in 1986 at the start of the Olympic Games that were being held in Atlanta in Georgia, and it followed the tale of the eventful bombing that took place at Centennial Park in Atlanta just prior to the beginning of the games. There was a celebratory concert being held, a huge crowd, and we follow what happened at that event. Prior to that, we're introduced to the lead character, Richard Jewell, who we get a slight pocketed CV of his employment record. We witness him working in an office, assisting the lawyer who becomes his lawyer a little later. His lawyer is Watson Bryant, played excellently by Sam Rockwell. We also get some information about his employment record previously, as he worked as a security officer, and he was also involved with working with the police. But basically his methods of dealing with potential problematic situations have been recorded as being overzealous, and he's had lost his job on a number of occasions because of his rather forceful means of controlling a situation. So we get a sort of picture profile of him. He's managed to get another job in view of the Olympics. A security firm takes him on, and he's actually in Centennial Park on that night, and he breaks up a small group of drunken teenagers and asserts his authority. They are rather sort of reluctant, so he then brings in the police, and he finds a suspicious backpack, And although the initial reaction from the surrounding crowd and latterly the police is that it's nothing, eventually they take it quite seriously, and as Jewell attempts to get the crowd back, and an officer starts examining more closely the bag, it goes off. It's a nail bomb, and there was 2 people killed and over 100 people injured. Well, as a result of this and the actions of Jewell in getting the crowd back and reporting the package, the result of this is a euphoria of interest by the press, viewing him as a hero, and this is blown out of all proportion, and within sort of a number of hours he's in demand to be on TV talk shows, book deals, etc., etc. And then what follows is that a reporter, Kathy Scruggs, played extremely well by Olivia Wilde, decides to dig into Jewell and finds out a little bit about his seedy past, and then blows the story up and communicates with the FBI her anxieties, and they take this on board, and they do a profile on Jewell, and he then gets put in the frame as a potential as the potential bomber. And what follows is a twin-prong attack by the media and the law enforcement officers on Jewell's basic civil rights, the intrusiveness of their operations, and Jewell, first of all, is conned into going to the police station, led to believe that he's going to help them with the profiling to help lead to the capture of the bomber, and then it evolves whilst he's there that they're going to do nothing of the sort, and they want to implicate him in a rather corrupt attempt to get him to speak as the bomber did over the phone, and try and nail him on the fact that his voice recognition would suggest that the circumstantial evidence is quite significant. He then remembers his lawyer friend, calls him up, and Rockwell immediately gets on the scene and rather shakes the law enforcement officers up, who are led by the excellent John Hamm, who plays Tom Shaw. And what then follows is a series of events where the FBI raid the home with a search warrant, take away all and sundry. Brian becomes aware that Jewell has various weapons in the house, all of which have permits, but nevertheless it adds to this profile of a man who presents really as rather fat, overweight. His simplicity in his verbal delivery suggests that he's not the brightest guy on the planet, and they then attempt to sort of create a profile of a man who was rather a suspect, is into law enforcement, but may well be bitter because he lost his job, and he enjoys owning firearms, and he hunts. And so there's a catalogue of circumstantial evidence that's put together, and Jewell is slowly being broken, and his mother is becoming desperately distressed about the whole event. And the movie basically shows how that takes place, and how Rockwell's performance as the lawyer is the only source of help for this family, and how they try to resist the desire on the part of the officers, particularly Ham, to get a confession and get this case all wrapped up. And so Eastwood again, who has in the past has picked on sort of characters who've been up to the faced up against the impact of the media, the impact of the law enforcement agencies. He likes having movies with these characters in those films, but on this occasion his attack is two-pronged, because he's basically showing the corruption both within the media, fake news, which of course has been highly popular in the last 2 or 3 years, and of course corrupt police officers who are intent to get a conviction under any sort of circumstances. And so there's quite a lot of political aspects to the movie, the media frenzy, the heavy-handedness, and it really does have a taste of the David versus Goliath tale in it. And I found it very, very easy to follow. And the lead role, Haza, is brilliant as this sort of simpleton who's very much into law and order, very much into help in security services and law enforcement agencies, and he can't understand why he's been put in the frame as a potential terrorist stroke bomber. So that's about it. That's my take on it. I'd suggest you go and watch it. It's Richard Jewell.